It was just after midnight when the rumors hit like a lightning strike. One moment, everything looked normal in hip-hop's billion-dollar ecosystem. The next, fans were waking up to whispers that millions had vanished overnight, and somehow, one of the biggest names on the planet was suddenly being mentioned in the same breath as the word investigation. Phones started buzzing. Group chats lit up. And before anyone could even separate fact from fiction, Drake's name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Now here's where it gets wild. This isn't about a robbery caught on camera or a simple business dispute. This is one of those behind-the-scenes situations, the kind that makes fans say, "Nah, something don't add up." Because according to the chatter, the missing money wasn't random. It was allegedly tied to a deal, a promise, and a circle that was supposed to be airtight. And when that circle cracked, Lil Baby reportedly wanted answers immediately. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and insiders started hinting that this situation could expose way more than just a financial mistake. We're talking about private calls, tense meetings, and people choosing sides fast. Some say this is just industry noise blown out of proportion. Others are asking why, if nothing's wrong, so many people suddenly went quiet. And here's the first twist: not everyone involved is on the same page about what actually happened that night. The second twist: there may be receipts, but nobody agrees on what they really prove. So the question isn't just where did the millions go, it's who knew first and who's about to take the fall. By the next morning, the energy had completely shifted. What started as late-night whispers turned into full-blown speculation across timelines, blogs, and group chats. Fans were shocked at how fast the story grew legs. One minute it was industry talk. The next minute people were connecting dots that may or may not have even belonged on the same page. And right in the center of it all, Drake, quiet, unreadable, and suddenly the most discussed name in hip-hop for reasons that had nothing to do with music. Sources claim the situation traces back to a high-level business move that was supposed to be smooth, low-key, and mutually beneficial. The kind of deal artists do when they don't want the public involved. No press releases, no flashy announcements, just trust. Allegedly, this wasn't just pocket change either. We're talking numbers big enough to change relationships forever. So when people noticed that the money didn't land where it was expected, alarms quietly went off behind closed doors. That's when Lil Baby's name entered the conversation in a serious way. According to entertainment speculation, Baby wasn't loud at first. No tweets, no cryptic captions, just questions, direct ones, the kind you ask when you feel like something isn't sitting right, but you're still hoping there's a reasonable explanation. People close to the situation say he wanted clarity, not chaos. But the problem was, every answer seemed to lead to another question. Fans started noticing subtle things. Old photos resurfaced. Interviews suddenly sounded different. Lyrics people once ignored were being replayed with brand new meaning. Comment sections were filled with "y'all missed this" and "go back and listen again." Whether coincidence or confirmation bias, the timing couldn't have been worse. The narrative was building itself, and nobody was officially saying anything to shut it down. Behind the scenes, emotions ran high. This wasn't just business anymore. This was about respect, loyalty, and reputation. The family was left divided, not blood family, but industry family. Managers, friends, day ones who'd been around long before the money got this big. Some were saying, "Relax, this happens all the time." Others were saying, "Nah, this feels different." Then came the first major twist. Speculation started floating that the missing millions may have moved through more than one account before disappearing. Again, not confirmed, just the kind of rumor that makes people stop scrolling. If true, that would mean this wasn't a simple delay or clerical issue. It would suggest intention, or at least awareness. And that's when the word investigation began popping up more seriously, even if no one could agree on what that really meant. Fans are shocked because Drake's public image has always been calculated, controlled, and clean when it comes to business. So the idea of his name being attached to anything messy didn't sit right with a lot of people. Some rushed to his defense immediately, saying there's no way he'd risk everything over money. Others weren't so sure, pointing out that history has shown power can blur judgment, even for the biggest stars. Meanwhile, Lil Baby's camp was rumored to be tense. Quiet meetings, phones on airplane mode. Conversations happening in person instead of text. People say Baby felt blindsided, like the rug had been pulled out from under him without warning. And when trust is questioned at that level, even a small misunderstanding can explode into something uncontrollable. Another twist came when a so-called insider hinted that more people might be involved than fans realize. Not just artists, but executives, account handlers, middlemen whose names never make headlines but move massive amounts of money daily. If that's true, then the story everyone thinks they're watching might only be the surface. And that idea alone had fans spiraling. Was Drake actually involved, or was his name being used because it carries weight? Was Lil Baby reacting to missing money or to missing honesty? And if the truth comes out, who benefits and who loses everything? At this point, nobody knew what to believe. But one thing was clear: the silence was loud. And in hip-hop, silence usually means something big is brewing. By the next morning, the energy had completely shifted. What started as late-night whispers turned into full-blown speculation across timelines, blogs, and group chats. Fans were shocked at how fast the story grew legs. One minute it was industry talk. The next minute people were connecting dots that may or may not have even belonged on the same page. And right in the center of it all, Drake, quiet, unreadable, and suddenly the most discussed name in hip-hop for reasons that had nothing to do with music. Sources claim the situation traces back to a high-level business move that was supposed to be smooth, low-key, and mutually beneficial. The kind of deal artists do when they don't want the public involved. No press releases, no flashy announcements, just trust. Allegedly, this wasn't just pocket change either. We're talking numbers big enough to change relationships forever. So when people noticed that the money didn't land where it was expected, alarms quietly went off behind closed doors. That's when Lil Baby's name entered the conversation in a serious way. According to entertainment speculation, Baby wasn't loud at first. No tweets, no cryptic captions, just questions, direct ones, the kind you ask when you feel like something isn't sitting right, but you're still hoping there's a reasonable explanation. People close to the situation say he wanted clarity, not chaos. But the problem was, every answer seemed to lead to another question. Fans started noticing subtle things. Old photos resurfaced. Interviews suddenly sounded different. Lyrics people once ignored were being replayed with brand new meaning. Comment sections were filled with "y'all missed this" and "go back and listen again." Whether coincidence or confirmation bias, the timing couldn't have been worse. The narrative was building itself, and nobody was officially saying anything to shut it down. Behind the scenes, emotions ran high. This wasn't just business anymore. This was about respect, loyalty, and reputation. The family was left divided, not blood family, but industry family. Managers, friends, day ones who'd been around long before the money got this big. Some were saying, "Relax, this happens all the time." Others were saying, "Nah, this feels different." Then came the first major twist. Speculation started floating that the missing millions may have moved through more than one account before disappearing. Again, not confirmed, just the kind of rumor that makes people stop scrolling. If true, that would mean this wasn't a simple delay or clerical issue. It would suggest intention, or at least awareness. And that's when the word investigation began popping up more seriously, even if no one could agree on what that really meant. Fans are shocked because Drake's public image has always been calculated, controlled, and clean when it comes to business. So the idea of his name being attached to anything messy didn't sit right with a lot of people. Some rushed to his defense immediately, saying there's no way he'd risk everything over money. Others weren't so sure, pointing out that history has shown power can blur judgment, even for the biggest stars. Meanwhile, Lil Baby's camp was rumored to be tense. Quiet meetings, phones on airplane mode, conversations happening in person instead of text. People say Baby felt blindsided, like the rug had been pulled out from under him without warning. And when trust is questioned at that level, even a small misunderstanding can explode into something uncontrollable. Another twist came when a so-called insider hinted that more people might be involved than fans realize. Not just artists, but executives, account handlers, middlemen whose names never make headlines but move massive amounts of money daily. If that's true, then the story everyone thinks they're watching might only be the surface. and that idea alone had fans spiraling. Was Drake actually involved, or was his name being used because it carries weight? Was Lil Baby reacting to missing money or to missing honesty? And if the truth comes out, who benefits and who loses everything? At this point, nobody knew what to believe. But one thing was clear: the silence was loud. And in hip-hop, silence usually means something big is brewing. As the days passed, the pressure didn't ease, it multiplied. What fans didn't see on the timelines was how tense things had become behind closed doors. This wasn't just a headline anymore. According to entertainment speculation, rooms were getting quieter, conversations shorter, and trust harder to come by. People who once laughed together were now choosing their words carefully, because every sentence felt like it could end up being repeated somewhere it didn't belong. By midweek, the narrative took another sharp turn. A rumored private meeting allegedly took place in a neutral location. No cameras, no entourage, no extra energy. Just a handful of people who all understood what was at stake. The vibe, heavy. Witnesses later described it as all business, no warmth. Lil Baby, according to chatter, didn't come in yelling or accusing. Instead, he came in calm, which in this industry can be even more intimidating. Calm means prepared. Calm means you've already thought through what you're going to say if things go left. Speculation says this is where emotions really ran high. Questions were asked that had no easy answers. Timelines didn't line up. Numbers didn't match expectations. And every explanation seemed to create another gap instead of closing one. That's when frustration reportedly crept in. Not the loud kind, the disappointed kind. The kind that makes people feel played. Meanwhile, Drake's side was allegedly trying to keep things contained. From the outside, it looked like silence. But insiders claim that silence was strategic. In moments like this, anything said too early can turn into a soundbite, and soundbites can turn into narratives that never die. Fans are shocked because Drake has always been known for moving calculated, especially when business is involved. So the idea that his team would let confusion spiral didn't sit right with a lot of people. Then came another twist, one nobody expected. A rumor surfaced that a third party may have raised concerns weeks before the money allegedly went missing. Someone on the inside, someone who noticed inconsistencies but didn't push hard enough at the time. Now that detail had people asking uncomfortable questions. If someone saw the signs early, why wasn't action taken sooner? And if warnings were ignored, who made that call? Social media, of course, did what it always does. Fans started picking sides. Some said Lil Baby had every right to feel some type of way. Others felt Drake was being dragged into something that wasn't his mess to clean up. Emotions ran high in comment sections, and the family was left divided, not just artist families, but fan families too. People who once celebrated collaborations were now debating loyalty like it was a courtroom drama. Behind the scenes, the situation reportedly began affecting more than just reputations. Business deals started feeling shaky. Calls that would normally get returned in minutes were now taking hours, sometimes days. And in an industry where momentum is everything, that kind of delay can cost millions all by itself. According to speculation, some executives began distancing themselves, not wanting their names anywhere near uncertainty. Then there was the conversation nobody wanted to have out loud. What if the missing millions weren't actually missing in the traditional sense? What if they were redirected, paused, or tied up in something far more complicated than anyone initially realized? That theory alone caused tension, because if true, it would mean someone knew more than they were saying. Another alleged twist hit when whispers suggested that legal language was being reviewed, not filed, not official, just reviewed. The kind of quiet preparation people do when they're hoping for the best but bracing for the worst. Fans are shocked because once lawyers enter the chat, things rarely stay friendly. At that point, it stops being about understanding and starts being about protection. Lil Baby, according to those close to him, was feeling conflicted. On one hand, this was business, numbers, contracts, expectations. On the other hand, this was personal. Relationships don't just disappear overnight without leaving scars. And the idea that money could come between people who'd shared success together didn't sit right with him at all. Drake, meanwhile, was rumored to be frustrated in a different way. Not angry, calculated. The type of frustration that comes from knowing your name alone can change how a story is told, even if the full picture hasn't come out yet. Some insiders claim he felt like the situation was growing bigger than reality, fueled by speculation rather than substance. But the clock was ticking. Another layer of tension came when fans noticed industry peers going quiet. Artists who usually comment, joke, or show love stayed silent. No posts, no reactions. In hip-hop, that silence can speak louder than words. It suggested that people knew more than they were willing to say publicly. Then came a moment that shifted everything again. A leaked voice note, unverified, unconfirmed, allegedly began circulating in small circles. Nothing explosive on the surface, but enough to raise eyebrows. The tone was serious, the language careful, and the implication that this situation might not end quietly. Whether real or fabricated, the existence of that audio alone sent shockwaves through the conversation. Fans are shocked because every new detail seems to complicate the story further. No clear villain, no clean hero, just powerful people navigating a messy situation where every move is being watched. And as the pressure continued to build, one thing became impossible to ignore. Whatever really happened to those millions, the fallout was already changing relationships, shifting alliances, and setting the stage for a moment that could redefine how both artists are seen moving forward. Because in hip-hop, money comes and goes, but trust, once questioned, is almost impossible to repair. By the time the weekend hit, the situation had officially crossed the point of no return. What once felt like a private misunderstanding was now being treated like a slow-burning crisis. Fans are shocked because the energy around both camps had visibly changed. Subtle things stood out: body language in public appearances, who stood next to who wasn't around at all. In hip-hop, absence can be louder than presence, and people were paying attention. According to entertainment speculation, another closed-door meeting was proposed, but this time the tone was different. Less, let's clear this up, and more, we need to protect ourselves. That shift alone told insiders everything they needed to know. When protection enters the conversation, trust has already taken a hit. People say the room felt colder this time. Fewer voices, more listening. Everyone measuring their words, knowing anything could be replayed later. This is where betrayal started creeping into the narrative. Not betrayal in the dramatic, movie-style sense, but the quieter kind. The kind where someone feels like they weren't fully informed, where details come out late, where explanations feel incomplete. Lil Baby, according to rumors, started questioning not just where the money went, but who actually knew what and when. That's a dangerous line of thinking in an industry built on alliances. Meanwhile, Drake's side was reportedly focused on one thing: control. Control of the narrative, control of the damage, control of perception. Insiders claim there was frustration that speculation was outrunning reality. That online voices were filling in gaps with imagination, turning unknown into accusation. And the scary part: once a story feels believable enough, facts don't always matter. Another twist surfaced when people began whispering about internal disagreements within the camps themselves. Not everyone was aligned on how to handle the situation. Some advised patience. Others pushed for clarity. A few reportedly wanted distance, not because they believed wrongdoing, but because uncertainty makes people nervous. The family was left divided, and that division wasn't clean or comfortable. Fans started reacting emotionally. Some felt disappointed. Others felt defensive. Longtime supporters argued back and forth, trying to protect the image of artists they'd grown up with. Emotions ran high because this wasn't just about money anymore, it was about identity. About who these artists were supposed to be versus what the headlines were starting to suggest. Then came another unexpected development. Speculation began circulating that the missing millions might be connected to a much larger financial structure. Layered deals, delayed payouts, and complex agreements that don't translate well to public understanding. If true, it would mean the situation wasn't caused by one action, but by a system that finally cracked under pressure. That theory complicated everything, because systems don't have faces, people do. And once again, Drake's name carried weight, whether deserved or not. Lil Baby, according to those close to him, felt like transparency should have come sooner. Even if nothing malicious happened, the delay in clarity felt disrespectful. In his mind, respect is currency. Lose that, and the money doesn't even matter anymore. That emotional layer is what fans may not fully grasp, the difference between losing money and losing confidence in someone you trusted. At the same time, speculation suggested Drake felt boxed in by expectations. His silence was being read as guilt by some, strategy by others. But silence doesn't exist in a vacuum. It invites interpretation. And the longer it lasted, the louder the assumptions became. Another twist added fuel to the fire when industry insiders allegedly started leaking selective information. Not full truths, fragments. Enough to steer conversations without confirming anything outright. That's how narratives are shaped quietly. One detail here, one heard from a reliable source there. Fans are shocked because suddenly, everyone seemed to know something, but no one could agree on what was real. Behind the scenes, stress levels reportedly rose. Sleep became harder. Phones stayed close. Every notification felt heavy. This wasn't just about public image anymore, it was about future relationships, future deals, future collaborations that now felt uncertain. And then there was the ripple effect. Other artists reportedly started reconsidering their own arrangements. Managers double-checked contracts. Account teams reviewed processes. This situation became a cautionary tale overnight, a reminder that even at the highest level, things can unravel fast. Whether the money was truly missing or simply misunderstood, the damage to trust was real. Another emotional moment came when speculation suggested family voices, real family, not industry, were weighing in privately, advising caution, urging peace, reminding both sides what was really important. But family advice doesn't always fix business wounds. Sometimes it just highlights how deep they go. Fans noticed Drake appearing calm on the surface, but quieter than usual. Lil Baby, on the other hand, was rumored to be restless, not angry, just unsettled. The kind of feeling that doesn't let you move on until you understand what really happened. And understanding was still out of reach. Then came one more twist that shifted the mood entirely. Rumors suggested that documentation existed, not dramatic proof, not a smoking gun, but enough paperwork to tell a story depending on how it was read. And that's the problem. Documents don't speak for themselves. People interpret them, and interpretation depends on perspective. At this point, fans weren't just asking who was right or wrong. They were asking whether the truth would ever be fully public, or whether this would be one of those industry situations that fades without resolution, leaving only tension behind. Because one thing was becoming painfully clear. Even if the money reappeared tomorrow, the relationships might not. And in hip-hop, broken relationships have a way of echoing for years. As the pressure mounted and the next move loomed, everyone could feel it, the calm before whatever came next. By the start of the following week, the mood had shifted yet again, but this time, it felt heavier. Not louder, heavier. Fans are shocked because instead of explosive headlines, there was an eerie calm settling over the situation, the kind that usually comes right before something finally breaks. Industry watchers knew this pattern well. When the noise drops, it's often because conversations are happening in rooms the public will never see. According to entertainment speculation, this was the moment both sides started thinking long-term. Not just about today's damage, but about what this story could look like a year from now. Because in hip-hop, narratives stick. Once your name is attached to controversy, even loosely, it has a way of resurfacing at the worst possible time. Award season, album rollouts, business negotiations, nothing exists in isolation. Another alleged meeting took place, smaller than the others. Fewer voices, more authority. The kind of discussion where people speak slowly, deliberately. Insiders say the focus wasn't on blame anymore, but on containment. How do you stop a situation from becoming a permanent stain? How do you move forward without publicly admitting fault that may not even exist? This is where the story took an unexpected emotional turn. Speculation suggests Lil Baby wasn't just thinking as an artist or businessman anymore. He was thinking as someone who felt caught off guard. Someone replaying past conversations in his head, wondering if he missed signs or trusted too easily. That kind of self-questioning can be dangerous because it quietly reshapes how you see everyone around you. Fans are shocked because Baby has always been portrayed as solid, grounded, unshaken by industry games. But this situation reportedly rattled him in a way few expected. On the other side, Drake was rumored to be feeling something different, not fear, not panic, but frustration mixed with disbelief. The idea that his name could be tied to something so unclear reportedly didn't sit right with him at all. According to insiders, he felt like the situation had grown into a symbol for something bigger than reality. A cautionary tale people were projecting onto him without fully understanding the mechanics behind it. Then came another twist. Quietly, subtly, fans noticed a shift in how media outlets were talking about the story. The language softened. Allegedly appeared more often. Unverified became a recurring word. That shift suggested one thing: the easy version of the story was starting to fall apart. And when simple narratives collapse, people either dig deeper or move on entirely. But this wasn't something that could be ignored. Speculation began swirling that a private resolution might already be in motion. Not a public statement, not a dramatic apology, just a behind-the-scenes understanding that never makes headlines. The kind of resolution that satisfies contracts but leaves emotions unresolved. Fans are shocked because those quiet endings rarely feel satisfying, especially when so many questions were raised publicly. And those questions weren't going away. Who first noticed the money wasn't where it was expected to be? Who decided to wait instead of speaking up immediately? And at what point did confusion turn into suspicion? Another layer of tension came when whispers suggested that future collaborations were being quietly reconsidered. Nothing announced, nothing canceled, just paused. In this industry, pauses speak volumes. They suggest hesitation, doubt, a need for distance until clarity returns. The family was left divided in a new way now, not angry, not arguing, but emotionally split. Some believed the situation had been blown out of proportion. Others felt it exposed cracks that had always been there, just hidden beneath success and silence. Fans argued over timelines, over tone, over what owed really meant in an industry built on handshake deals and shifting expectations. Then there was the public silence itself. No direct statements, no press conferences, no dramatic social media posts. That silence became the loudest character in the story. People read into it endlessly. Some took it as proof that things were being handled responsibly. Others saw it as avoidance. In the absence of answers, imagination filled the gaps, and imagination rarely leans generous. According to speculation, both camps were now painfully aware that whatever the truth was, it might never fully satisfy the public. And that realization changes how you move. It forces you to decide what matters more: being understood or moving forward. Another emotional moment reportedly came when someone close to the situation pointed out something uncomfortable: that even if every dollar were accounted for tomorrow, the trust that cracked during the confusion might never fully repair. Because trust isn't just about outcomes, it's about communication, timing, transparency, and those things, once questioned, don't reset easily. Fans are shocked because they're used to seeing conflicts end with a clear winner or loser. A diss track, a lawsuit, a public reconciliation. But this story didn't seem headed in any of those directions. Instead, it felt like one of those industry moments that fades quietly, leaving behind awkward energy and unanswered questions. As days passed, attention slowly began drifting elsewhere: new drops, new controversies, new distractions. But the people involved didn't get that luxury. For them, the situation lingered, in phone calls, in meetings, in moments of hesitation before saying yes to something that once felt automatic. And that's the part most fans may never see. Because the real impact of moments like this isn't always public. It's internal. It's how it changes how people move, who they trust, and what they choose to protect going forward. So as the headlines cooled and the timelines refreshed, one truth remained unresolved. Were the millions ever truly missing? Or was clarity the real thing that vanished overnight? And in an industry where perception can be more powerful than facts, that question may matter more than any final answer ever could. So now it's on you. After hearing everything, the missing millions, the silence, the speculation, the divided loyalties, the biggest question still hangs in the air. Was this ever really about money, or was it about trust breaking behind the scenes? Fans are shocked because no clear answer ever fully surfaced, and that uncertainty is what keeps stories like this alive long after the headlines fade. Think about it. If the money truly moved the way some insiders suggest, why did it take so long for clarity? And if everything was misunderstood from the start, why did so many relationships feel the pressure? Those unanswered questions are what separate a quick rumor from a moment that quietly reshapes how people move in the industry. And here's the real twist. Situations like this don't usually end with receipts posted online or public apologies. They end with distance, with changed energy, with collaborations that never happen and conversations that never sound the same again. Whether you believe Drake was unfairly pulled into the narrative or Lil Baby had every reason to demand answers, one thing is clear. This situation left marks that won't disappear overnight. Now I want to hear from you. Won't disappear overnight. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this was just industry confusion blown out of proportion? Or do you feel like there's still a piece of the story the public never got to see? And if you were in Lil Baby's position, would you have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. If you want more real-time hip-hop drama, behind-the-scenes stories, and entertainment speculation that breaks down what's really going on beyond the headlines, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because in hip-hop, today's silence is tomorrow's headline, and this story might not be over yet.